decisions. We take the national data and share that every year with Congress, as well as the Department of Education and other state and federal agencies to inform their programs and funding. But our fundamental first goal is to build up local capacity in schools and districts using the voices of your stakeholders. It is a large-scale project. We have quite a few schools and districts that participate with us each year. Just a representation here from Speak Up last year, where the surveys were open from the middle of October to the end of January. We had about 406,000 K-12 stakeholders that participated in Speak Up, and you can see the breakdown here of the different audiences. Those stakeholders came from about 3,600 school districts, a little bit over 10,000 schools, and really represent the cross-section of folks that have their thoughts and perspectives on the use of technology within learning today. We have some wonderful partners, and I always want to make sure that you're aware of some of our partners who work with us. And these fabulous partners may be organizations that you are part of or that you follow or whose work you're using in your day-to-day activities as well. We are thrilled to have a partnership with all these fabulous leading organizations who not only help us in terms of developing the questions for the Speak Up survey, but also help us in the dissemination of the information. You may have found out about this webinar through one of these partners, and then also in the dissemination of the reports. So the types of questions that are on that suite of surveys that we have basically cover the use of technology to support learning. We are polling K-12 students, teachers, parents, and administrators at all levels through the Speak Up surveys. And so some of the questions are more appropriate for certain audiences than others. So from the very beginning, we've always asked teachers about their needs for professional learning. We ask students about their interest in different career fields. We ask superintendents what wake them up in the middle of the night as a statement of the challenges or priorities that they have. But in many cases, the questions are the same across the different audiences. And that's so that we can do comparatives. So if we're talking, for example, to a parent about how they would like to be communicated with from their child's teacher, we also ask question of the school principals about how they're disseminating information to parents. Since we started this in 2003, we've had a little bit over 5.4 million K-12 stakeholders that have participated in Speak Up, making the Speak Up dataset the largest collection of authentic feedback, particularly from students, about the types of experiences that they're having using digital tools within the learning process. Now, there's several things that make the Speak Up surveys a little bit unusual or a little bit different compared to some other surveys or some other tools that might be out there for collecting feedback from stakeholders. Fundamentally, we ask students across three specific vectors. We ask folks what they're doing using technology, but we also ask about their attitudes and their aspirations for using digital tools. We believe that just asking folks what they're doing is interesting. It gives you an interesting baseline, but it doesn't help you in terms of decision making. And remember, our focus is on making sure that this authentic feedback from your stakeholder is elevating your capacity for better decision making, for better discussions within your schools and districts. So we believe very strongly in the triangulation of this data between what folks are doing using technology, how they feel about it, and what their aspirations or wish lists are. So just to give you a little bit of example of the types of questions that fall into these three vectors. You know, an activities type question would be something like, how often are you using videos in your classroom? That's a teacher question that we ask. From an attitude standpoint, it's really about, once again, how folks are valuing or not valuing their digital learning experience. So we ask teachers as well as students, what are the benefits of digital learning for you? Or we ask parents, what concerns you about your child's technology use? In terms of aspirations, we believe that these wish lists, what parents, students, teachers, administrators are thinking about would be optimum in the use of technology, is also an important part of this formula for understanding the state of the digital classroom today. We asked all the respondents to talk to us about what type of technology they would consider essential in their dream school, for example, and that's a really interesting question. Now, in terms of what participation brings to you, we, of course, have once again done all the heavy lift in terms of getting the surveys ready to be able to be used by your stakeholders. But the most important part is that we give back to our participating schools and districts all of their locally collected data. Every survey, every question, every response, every audience. We don't give you a synopsis, we don't give you a synthesized version. You actually get all of the data collected from your stakeholders. If you are participating at a district level, you get district aggregated data as well as school level comparative data so that you can look across your district and see where there are differences, see where there are similarities. We also give you comparatives at the state level and at the national level, and lots of folks use those as benchmarks to see where their stakeholders are in terms of their attitudes, their valuations, what they're doing. And for many states, we also provide county level data as well. But it's really about making this data useful for you. So we also provide to our participants templates for PowerPoints as well as templates for infographics that provide you with an opportunity to pop your data into the formats that we've already set up for you. And then that makes it easy for you to share with your school board, with your administrative team, with your teachers, with your parents, with your greater community. Now, districts tell us that there are 5 primary ways that they are using their Speak Up data. And I'm just going to touch on each one of these very, very lightly. If you have some additional questions, I'm happy to, we can engage with those as well. Many districts tell us that they use their Speak Up data to inform their teacher professional development. That's either in the identification of what types of professional development the teachers need, or the idea of how students want to use technology as an input to teachers understanding the importance of effective technology use in the classroom. Many districts use their Speak Up data to engage their community, either to inform their community about their digital initiatives, or to engage their community in supporting some new digital initiatives or the strategic vision of the school or district. Lots of district leaders tell us that they love using their Speak Up data because it helps them with decision making. It gives them input into what their stakeholders are really thinking about, what they value, how they're already using these tools, and that then helps make their decisions about new initiatives or the continuation of existing initiatives much more fact-based as opposed to just anecdotal. The same thing with evaluating outcomes. With so much more in terms of investment in technology happening in our schools and districts today, it is absolutely imperative that school and district leaders are measuring outcomes from those investments. And the Speak Up data provides you with a way to do that. We'll talk more about that with the mobile learning snapshot as well. And then finally, many districts tell us that they use their Speak Up data to help develop new revenue sources or new funding to support their strategic mission, or in particular, to support their technology investments. That might be including their Speak Up data in grant applications, as well as in potentially developing revenue from their community and building a case for increased new bond measures or parcel taxes or some type of new sources of revenue. All in all, what we believe is that participation in the Speak Up process provides a lot of benefits to schools and districts, most notably about appreciating and understanding the diverse perspectives of your stakeholders. We'll talk more about that in a moment. We also know that schools and districts are facing many demands and challenges, and also have a greater need than ever before to have authentic feedback and data to inform those plans going forward. Too often we rely upon anecdote or assumption, or in some cases mythology about what our stakeholders want or need. Speak Up gives you the opportunity to actually have that data directly served to you. There's also a lot to be said about the fact of building up local leadership capacity, particularly around community engagement, with engaging your stakeholders in participation in Speak Up. And the other thing that we think is really important, and the reason that Speak Up is 100% a free service to schools and districts, is that we believe your precious education funding should be focused just on educational outcomes, not used to pull your stakeholders or to pull staff from other projects to do this type of work. That's why we provide this as a service. We also know that increasingly technology use in schools today actually isn't about technology. Increasingly, it's really a metaphor for the education transformation process that's happening. And so if we look at it within that lens, we have a much different perspective in terms of the implementation of technology to support your strategic goals. Now, I mentioned I wanted to talk a little bit more about appreciating and understanding the diverse perspective of stakeholders. We've been working with schools and districts through Speak Up now for 15 years. And so we've had the opportunity to really get to understand what that state of digital learning looks like today, but also in terms of how that journey has unfolded over the last couple of years. And what we have always seen is that in many cases, those diverse perspectives can be a little bit confusing. And sometimes, even though we think we're looking at technology implementations in a certain way, we may actually be seeing it through a much different lens, and our stakeholders may be seeing it through a different lens. So it's a little bit like this image. Some of us may look at this image and think that we see a face. It has deep set eyes, a really strong nose, a strong chin, a very high forehead. Some of us may look at this image and see a woman who looks like she's walking through leaves. She's wearing a fur coat and kind of swishing her way through the leaves. Some of us on the webinar today may look at this image and see both of those two sub-images, and some of us might not see either of them. I like to say that this is what we believe to be the state of digital learning today. All of our stakeholders, whether it's our students, the parents of our students, our teachers, our principals, the librarians, the district leaders, our technology leaders, or even our community members, are bringing to this conversation around the effective use of technology their own experiences, their own lens, shall we say. Those experiences may be based on when they started using technology, how they're using technology, and what they value or don't value about the use of technology. If we only look at this situation through our own lens, we may be missing part of the picture. And that's where we believe that participation in Speak Up gets you once again beyond that mythology or the anecdote or the assumption, and gives you new visibility into what your stakeholders consider to be important. And that's important for your decision-making around digital learning. So let's get into the section about what's new for 2008 in terms of Speak Up, and I'm going to take it in two parts. First, we're going to look at some new question themes, and then we're going to take a deep dive into these new special Speak Up snapshots. And then I'll take you through the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5 questions you need to know to get started in Speak Up 2018. So in terms of new question themes, let's start there. There's a couple different new question themes that we have on the surveys for 2018. I had shared with you earlier what our general themes are. Basically, about 60% of the questions on the Speak Up survey are the same from year to year. That's because our school districts want to be able to look at that data over time. Has it changed? Have we implemented a particular initiative or brought in some new type of teacher professional development, and we want to see the change in perceptions? That's about 60% of the questions. The other 40% of the questions tend to be either rotating questions, cyclical questions that we have about certain themes, or they're topical for one particular reason or another. These are some of the new question themes that we have for 2018. And not all of these questions are on all the surveys. Some of them pertain just specifically to students, some pertain just to teachers, some are more appropriate for parents. We are asking some new questions this year about social emotional learning because we know that that's an important topic that many people are talking about. We also, in the same vein, are asking new questions about school safety. We always have asked questions about cybersecurity and student safety online, but we have a new set of questions about some of the interesting ideas being considered for physical safety in our schools as well as mental health supports. We are asking some new questions about computer programming and coding. as well as some new questions around student online behavior concerns that folks have. That somehow actually ties into the school safety piece. We also are asking a really interesting set of questions this year about students' experiences with using YouTube, both for personal enjoyment and also for learning experiences. And we think that'll be a really interesting data for schools and districts to have. And then finally, another area, and I didn't touch on all of these, just a few, is the idea of teacher referrals of digital content. Are teachers referring digital content that they're using in their classrooms, content, tools, or resources to other teachers? Are they taking referrals from other teachers? And what qualifies as a valid referral? Really interesting new set of data there that we thought would be particularly interesting to districts that are trying to figure out how to more effectively get their teachers to adapt new types of digital content in the classroom. Okay, so what I want to do now is take a look at our snapshots. So we have two brand new snapshots this year. The first one is our mobile learning impact snapshot, and the second one is our teacher professional learning snapshot. So I'm going to take you through kind of the logistics of all of this, but I want to start off with why are we doing this so that you understand the context. So our goal with the Mobile Learning Impact Snapshot Survey is really to democratize mobile learning evaluations for all. The snapshot is a short, quick, speak up survey for students in middle school and high school, as well as their teachers. And these would be students and teachers that are involved in some way with mobile learning. Either you have a school or a district commitment to a one-to-one assignment program where you're assigning a tablet or a laptop or a Chromebook for students to use in school and or at home. Or maybe your implementation involves the teacher scheduling a cart to bring those devices in. Whatever it is, we are looking to help you collect feedback from these students and teachers that are involved in your mobile learning implementation so that you can answer this big question. What is the impact of mobile learning in our classrooms? So all of the questions on this short, quick Speak Up survey for the students and the teachers are exclusively around mobile device and app usage. Now, all of this is based upon our real-world understanding of the state of mobile learning and also what districts have told us that they need. Once again, folks, 100% of free service to schools and districts. There is nothing that we are talking about today that costs your district any part of your precious education funding. So let me give you a little background on why now for the mobile learning snapshot. We have watched over time through our Speak Up data the incredible growth in mobile device access and usage in K-12 classrooms. You've been on the front lines of it as well. Here's a few statistics that probably will align with what you have seen in your schools and districts. We now have principals that are telling us that 60% of those principals are telling us their school has implemented some type of mobile learning somewhere in their school. We also have seen one-to-one assignment programs. That's where the schools are assigning, once again, a tablet, a laptop, or a Chromebook to their students. Has absolutely doubled since 2013. And in fact, 82% of teachers say that their students have some type of access to mobile devices in their classroom sometime during the learning period. In 2014, only 46% of teachers said the same. So in just 3 years, we've seen phenomenal growth here. At the same time, we hear from technology leaders, again through the Speak Up surveys, as well as the interviews that we do with district leaders all the time, that is becoming increasingly challenging to quantify the impact of their digital learning initiatives. For many technology leaders, that today is their #1 challenge. Now that dovetails in with what we're also hearing from school board members, superintendents, all sorts of district leaders, as well as policymakers at all the different levels in the policymaking strand about a need for a greater return on investment analysis. And in many cases, the school boards and policymakers and district leaders are looking for something more than students are more engaged in the learning process. We know that engagement is an important part of the learning process. But for many of the folks that are making the investments in mobile learning, it is no longer sufficient for them, for us to just say students are more engaged in learning. They're actually looking for more tangible returns on those investments. The other thing that has been surprising to us is that despite the investments that have been made, too few districts are telling us that they are actually doing evaluations of their mobile learning projects. Now, there's many reasons for this, and there's no fault of the school districts that aren't doing it, because I've spent a lot of time talking with them about it. In many cases, that type of a mobile learning evaluation might be too time-consuming. It may be too expensive. Districts may not have that sort of expertise in-house, or even know how to get started or how to evaluate impact. That's where we thought we had a lot that we could contribute to this conversation. We've actually been evaluating mobile learning projects on a contract basis for school districts, companies, nonprofits, and foundations since 2007. So over 11 years of experience evaluating mobile learning projects. We started evaluating mobile learning projects when what we were talking about with mobile learning was kids having a smartphone in the class and using that smartphone as a learning device. So we've seen a lot in the evolution of mobile learning since 2007. We understand very clearly how to evaluate not just technology use, but emerging technology use. And the difference there is profound. There is not a recipe at this point, not a formula that says this is the most effective way to use all these digital tools. We're all still learning together, and I know that you appreciate that. So the evaluation of emerging technologies can be a very tricky business, and that actually makes it even more difficult for districts to do this on their own. Our analysis of looking at the mobile learning projects that we've been evaluating has included both quantitative and qualitative data that we collect and then analyze. And then most importantly, because we have such a keen focus on building capacity within schools and districts through the Speak Up process, we also know how to very clearly articulate what impact looks like, and to clearly articulate that impact so it makes sense to school board members, it makes sense to parents, it makes sense to your greater community, it makes sense to your teachers. We believe very strongly that every school and district should have the opportunity to benefit from our expertise. So whereas we've been doing these extensive, multi-year, multi-device, multi-school, multi-grade mobile learning projects since 2007, it has not fulfilled our need, which is to make sure that everyone is taking a look at the impact of their data and understanding how to evaluate that impact. Now, this quote will make a lot of sense to you, and of course, this is from Steve Jobs. He had said, "Customers don't measure you on how hard you try, they measure you on what you deliver." And increasingly, with the investments that are being made in our schools and districts around mobile learning, around the device access, around the access to apps, the teacher professional development on how to use those devices, how to use those apps, we are increasingly seeing that folks want to understand what is it that we're delivering as a result of this, and we want to help you do that. So with the Mobile Learning Impact Snapshot Survey, here's how it works, folks. We have two versions of this survey. We have what we're calling the fall survey and the spring survey. The fall survey looks from an evaluation standpoint like a pre-survey. The spring survey looks more like a post-survey. So you have the opportunity to collect feedback from your students and teachers that are involved in your mobile learning projects in the fall using our 15-question online survey. And then a slightly different version of that survey will also be available in the spring so that you can collect comparative data. I'm going to give you an example of this in a moment. So it's actually 2 bites at the apple. Now, you don't have to do both. If you want to just do the pre-survey, you can. If in the spring, you want to do the post-survey, that's fine as well. We would recommend that based on our evaluation expertise, it'd be really beneficial for you to do one in the fall and one in the spring, because then you get to look at that comparative data. The types of questions that are on the Mobile Learning Impact Snapshot are about the use of devices and apps. We ask students, how are you using these devices? What apps are you using? How often are you using them in class? In what different subject areas you are using them? We also ask about the use of those devices outside of school. And then we ask teachers about their concerns as well as their comfort level, or it may be lack of comfort, implementing various mobile learning strategies. We talk to all of the students and the teachers about the benefits and the impacts of mobile learning. And for impacts, we look at both positive impacts as well as what these stakeholders may say are negative or less than positive impacts, because we think that's important for you to know as well. We also talk to the students and teachers and ask for their input on recommendations for improving usage. Since we started Speak Up in 2003, we have almost every year asked for students to give us input as to how to improve the digital learning experiences that they're having in school. And that data has proven to be highly valuable to school and district leaders. It's coming directly from the students. Of course, you could always pull in a couple students into your office and ask them some questions. It is much more meaningful if you can get such a large representation from your students or from your teachers or parents, whoever it might be, about their recommendations. In addition to providing you with the surveys, we're also going to be creating a mobile learning impact analysis toolkit. This is going to be available first in January for the folks that do the fall survey, and then we're going to update it in May for the folks that are going to do the fall and the spring survey. Its entire goal with this toolkit is to help you interpret your data so that you can then translate that data to inform other key stakeholders. It might be your school board, it might be your community, it might be the parents that are complaining about too much screen time or concerned about too much screen time with their children. Whatever it might be, the focus of this toolkit is what data is most important to interpret so that you can share it with your stakeholders. Let me give you an example. And this is made up example, folks. Your data may be different, your mileage may be different, you know how that goes. So in this particular example, this particular school, let's say for example, did both the fall survey and the spring survey with their middle school students. In the fall, 40% of their middle school students said using their assigned Chromebook, they thought that having that access to that Chromebook would make them a better student during the school year. That was almost a wish that the students had. It wasn't talking about their current experience, it was an aspiration. In May, when the spring survey was implemented with those same students, 75% of those students said, for example, that having the Chromebook this school year helped them become a better student. And then the students identify for us what are the benefits associated with that. In this particular case, that same 75% of students said they were able to collaborate more with their classmates, they could email their teacher with questions, they were more likely to do all their homework using the school-provided Chromebook. So here we're looking at an example of the comparative between the pre-survey, the fall mobile learning impact survey, and the spring survey, and how that data can be used in conjunction with one another to be able to share with your stakeholders. Now again, folks, this is fictitious at this point because we haven't done this with your students or with your teachers. But conceptually, there could be a headline coming out of this in your district newsletter that says our students' learning experience is positively changed due to our district investment in Chromebooks, and then an explanation of that data. So now you have the opportunity not just to talk about the value of your mobile learning initiatives or investments hypothetically, but now you've got data to back this up. And that's what we want to help you with. We want to help you collect data that can back up your story to your community with something that's meaningful. Now, of course, you may, in the course of collecting this data from your students and your teachers about their mobile learning experiences, you may also learn some things that are not as positive that you may not want to share in your district newsletter. But that information is valuable for you to have too, because then you can act on that. It may be something about teachers needing more professional development, for example. So speaking of that, let's talk about the second snapshot. This is the one that has to do with teacher professional development. This one is focused in on leveraging data about teachers' preferences for high-impact professional learning. Once again, it is a short, quick Speak Up survey just for your teachers. It's focused exclusively on their professional learning needs and preferences, and it is set up to address this big question that we know schools and districts need to have. What professional development do our teachers need to more effectively use the different types of digital tools, content, and resources within instruction? Once again, it is based upon our real-world understanding of teacher professional learning, since we have been polling on that since 2004, and also conduct professional development for schools and districts as well. Once again, folks, 100% free service. Where is this coming from? Same sort of thing. We see high growth in digital tool, content, and resources being used in the classroom. Look at some of these numbers. Teacher use of digital games in the classroom has grown 148% since 2013. 70% of teachers tell us that they are using online videos that they go out and find online at least monthly in their classroom. And 51% of teachers say they are now customizing digital content to meet their classroom needs. Just 5 years ago, teachers were not doing that at all. But the other thing we know, and I bet you know it as well, this increased usage does not necessarily mean that teachers are most effectively using these tools, or that they are comfortable integrating technology into their learning experiences or implementing new learning strategies or models. In fact, only about a quarter of teachers told us last fall that they were very comfortable integrating technology or using these tools to personalize learning. But teachers want more professional learning. They don't necessarily want the one-size-fits-none type of professional learning, but they are very interested in professional learning and in elevating their skills in using technology more effectively. At the same time, district leaders want their teachers to take a more active role in their own PD, to not be passively waiting for the PD in-service day, but rather being more active, self-directed learners. We also know that the changing demographics within our teacher population, particularly the multiple generations that are evident in our teacher base, the multiple levels of familiarity with using technology, and the increasing needs for more focused professional development makes it very challenging for some districts to really understand what their teachers need and want. So that's why, once again, based on our expertise, where we've been studying and facilitating teacher professional development since 2001, we felt that we needed to bring this expertise into the schools and districts that we were working with, and to be able to help you understand how to best leverage this data and benefit from our expertise. So in many ways, it's like this question from, this quote from Lou Holtz, who is a very famous football coach. He says, "I never learn anything talking, I only learn things when I ask questions." And I think that's really important when we're thinking about professional development for teachers. I think too often in some districts, it's more about what the administrators think the teachers need rather than asking them what they need or what their preferences are. So how does it work? You're once again going to collect feedback from your teachers using our 15-question online survey. The types of survey questions that are on the Teacher Professional Learning Snapshot is a wish list for professional development. What's on that wish list for the teachers? What do they think about in terms of different types of formats or preferences for those formats for that professional development? And we include some questions on there about online or blended learning formats as well. What are the characteristics of high impact professional learning? In fact, we asked the teachers to talk to us about what was their optimum or best professional learning experience they ever had. And then we'll have the opportunity to share that with you and give you some recommendations on how to interpret that. We also asked teachers about how they are currently self-directing their professional learning experiences, going back to that goal that many districts have. And also thinking about the impact of professional learning on classroom practices. That's a part of the equation that sometimes we don't connect as well in our schools and districts. So if you've gone through this professional development on a particular learning strategy or a particular tool, Did you then go back and use that in the classroom? Did it make a difference? And then once again, we're asking teachers for their recommendations about more effective professional development. So let me take you through this again. As with the mobile learning snapshot, we're going to create for you, available in January, a professional learning analysis toolkit. Again, focused in on how do you interpret this data? How do you take this data from your teachers and use that to infuse your professional learning planning within your school or district, or potentially to create a different type of plan than what you had before? Once again, folks, I did a little hypothetical here for you. Your mileage may be different. Your teachers may say different things, but I wanted to show you how this analysis toolkit will work. So you have your teachers complete the professional learning snapshot, and what you find out is that they want more training on how to teach digital citizenship and internet safety to their students, to your students. 2/3 of your teachers say that what they really like from professional learning experiences is where those learning experiences allow them to be self-directed, allow them to be independent in their learning. You also have a majority of your teachers that have said they've taken an online class through a local college or university, and that was a positive experience for them. We are asking the teachers about not only have they taken those experiences, but was it a positive or negative experience? That's actually really important in understanding, particularly if you're interested in implementing more online professional development. What the teachers that took the online class said was what they liked best, so here's the valuation, was the ability to fit that class into their busy schedule. They could take it on their own time. And they were also able to self-remediate by reviewing the materials as often as they needed, going back through the either the course curriculum, or maybe a PowerPoint that the instructor had put together, or rewatch videos, whatever that might be. So this is an interesting set of data about your teachers. Now, a potential action for your PD plan might be something like this. And there's two parts to this. The first part is you may seek out a local college that is already providing, through online classes, digital citizenship training. It might be most efficient for you to partner with that local college to provide this to your teachers. That's part one. Part two, though, is you go back out to your teachers and you say, we are putting this plan in place because it's based on your input and your preferences. We are not taking a top-down strategy of saying this is what you are supposed to learn without asking your opinion. Because the other thing that we know from teachers is that they very much want to have input into the types of professional learning experiences that their districts or counties are providing to them. So your action item, and this will be emphasized in the toolkit, is not just to use this data to create new professional learning plans, but how do you then communicate that back out to your teachers so that they understand that these decisions that are being made, these plans that are being put in place, are truly rooted in their preferences and in their input. And I think that's really important. So what I'm going to do now, and I see there's a bunch of comments in the comment box, we'll get to that in just a moment, is just take you very quickly through how you participate in Speak Up. And again, you have some different opportunities. You, of course, can use our regular online surveys, the comprehensive surveys that are available for all the different stakeholders, or you could use the snapshots. Any combination thereof. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. This is an opportunity for you to collect feedback from your stakeholders, but also then to use that data to inform your plans and to make better decisions. Now, the Speak Up surveys actually are open right now. They opened a little bit less than a month ago. They'll be open until the end of January. So you have plenty of time to organize your schools and districts to participate in Speak Up. And there are 5 questions that I like to tell people is how you get started. The first question is selecting your audience. The second one is what is your format? Which of the survey versions are you going to use? Pick your time frame, set some participation goals, and then identify why you are participating in Speak Up. So let me take you quickly through each one of these. The first one is what stakeholder groups do you want to poll? So we have surveys available within the Speak Up project for K-12 students. They are age appropriate, reading level appropriate. In addition, we have group versions for the kindergarten through 5th grade students. So let me explain that so it makes sense to you. So if your students, your teachers can facilitate a group version in their elementary classrooms. That's where the teachers ask the questions that are on the survey. She or he asks the students to raise their hand if they want to answer any particular response. Teacher counts the number of hands up, and then she inputs it into a class aggregated survey. Most of our kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade students come through a group version. However, we also have an individual survey for K-1-2 and grades 3, 4, and 5. The K-1-2 survey, I will be quite honest with you, is beginning second grade reading level. In some communities that works, in other communities it does not. For the middle school students and high school students, those are independent surveys only, not teacher facilitated. We also have a survey specifically for teachers, another one for librarians and media specialists. For parents, we have a parent survey that's available in English and Spanish as an independent taking survey or in the group format. Survey for school site administrators, district administrators, technology leaders, and community members as well. So step one, you have to decide which stakeholder groups you want to poll within your community. You then have to decide what format. You could use our general surveys that ask questions around all those different topics that I described, or you could use just the snapshots. You can use any combination of this. You could use just the teacher professional learning snapshot and then use our national surveys, maybe for your parents. You could use the mobile learning impact snapshots for your students, but then use the general survey for your administrators. Any combination you want is perfectly fine. There is no limit in the number of surveys you can present to us or make available. There is no minimum, there is no maximum. It is totally flexible and up to you. You don't have to do all the surveys, you can do whatever combination you want. Now, as I mentioned, the surveys are open now. To be quite honest with you, many districts that participate with us year after year designate a focused time frame for their Speak Up data collection. It could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be a day, it could be a month, whatever it might be. You decide. Some folks have it open and they promote it during the entire period. You will get a URL that you can then share out with your stakeholders. That will easily facilitate their access into the survey. Now, here's one other thing to think about. If you are interested in getting your Speak Up data back from us in early January, then you're going to want to have all of your surveys, data collection process completed by your winter break. If you can complete all of that by winter break and say to your stakeholders, no more surveys, we're done, we can share back out with you your locally collected data in the beginning of January. Otherwise, if you want to go to January 31st, no problem. You then will get your data back the beginning of February. Now, the next thing I tell people is you have to set some goals for participation. Now, these goals may not be the goals that you have in mind, but I do want to encourage everyone to think about goals. What percentage of your student population are you going to feel comfortable about that data, having that within your Speak Up data set? What percentage of your teachers? What percentage of your parents or administrators? For whatever audience you choose. And then also, how are you going to use the data? And what I think is really important here is not just thinking through how you're going to use your Speak Up data, but then communicating that out to your community. So saying to teachers, we're going to participate in the Speak Up professional learning snapshot so that we have a better understanding of what your professional development needs are. So please take the 15-question survey with veracity, be candid with us, complete the survey. Having that type of conversation with your stakeholders makes them part of the process. I don't know about you, but I take an awful lot of surveys. Maybe it is just me. And I never hear from the respondents. I never know what they did with that data. I never know whether my input was important or valued. I'm a member of lots of different associations. It's that same sort of thing. I think it's really important to communicate with your stakeholders. Now, the next part I'm going to go through very quickly, but Amber is going to send out to everybody this PowerPoint presentation as well as the recording that we did today. We have a lot of resources that we can provide to you. You don't have to start off with participation, Speak Up, and say, well, how am I going to draft an email to my teachers about participating? we have all of that text for you. We have all the information that you need in one place in our Speak Up promotional materials section on our website. You can download all of this to use with your stakeholders. We also have done extensive work, as many organizations have done, around our data privacy policies to make sure that these are as tight and sharp and clear as they possibly can be. So I encourage you to go and take a look at those as well. And then in terms of what the reports look like when they come back to you, again, we will give you back your local data, every question, every response, so you can see what your stakeholders said. In addition to that, we're going to provide you with state and national comparative data. And then here are the dates here for when you will get your national and state reports. And then, as I mentioned before, we have a number of templates, whether those are infographics or reports or PowerPoints, that you can also download, and we'll give you the instructions in terms of how you can create those similar materials. That helps you understand that from our perspective, what do we think is the most important data that's out there, and then you can share that with your local community as well. So a lot more information is on our website, including reports and infographics from our data from last year and previous years. So I just wanted to give you a tip on checking us out at tomorrow.org. And now I'm going to take a pause and see if we have some questions. I know that I gave you an awful lot of information, and you've all been really patient with your questions. But let's see what I maybe missed on, Amber, that we need to clarify a little bit.
Sure, and just to remind everybody, if you want to go ahead and submit a question, you can do that in the chat. I'm also going to open up the phone lines in a minute too, because also we have a few people who are joining us that are not logged into a computer, so in case they have any questions, I'll open the line. So we did have a question that may have been answered because it was asked more towards the beginning, but always good to clarify. The question was, is the Snapshot survey, or I guess both surveys, different from the survey you take on the website?
So let's take the teacher professional development one as an example. So there are 15 questions on the teacher professional development survey that are all focused on professional development. On the main or standard teacher survey, there's about 3 or 4 questions that are about professional development, but there's also questions on there about mobile learning, the use of digital content, teachers' aspirations for using technology, what they think the benefits are of using technology. It is more broad-based. If you are interested just in understanding from your teachers about their professional development needs, then I would encourage you to use the Snapshot. If you are interested in a broader view from your teachers, and I'm using teachers just as an example, then I would encourage you to take a look at the national survey, the broader survey. Of course, folks, please know, and I should have mentioned this, Amber, you can go and take a look at all of these questions on our website. So I would also encourage you to go take a look if you're trying to consider which survey format you want to use. Take a look at all of the questions. Think about how that data can inform your work and where your priorities are. And then I think looking at the different questions, you will see what those differences are. So it would be the same for the mobile learning snapshot. That one's focused on mobile learning. There are mobile learning questions that we ask middle school and high school students as well as teachers, but it is a small set of that data, not the full survey.
Okay, and I think that helps answer another question that we had submitted about where to find the questions and if they can be reviewed. We did also have another question wondering if the district could use all of the surveys that you're talking about today.
Yes, of course. Districts can use all of the surveys. We have a lot of districts that do that. Or you can use any of the individual surveys. It's really up to you, and we build this in very specifically to be flexible, knowing that every district is different. You have different priorities, you have different needs. For many districts across the country, they have institutionalized Speak Up as their data collection vehicle for learning about the views of their stakeholders. And so, yes, they use all of the surveys every year. It's really up to you, whatever you want to do.
And one other question I see, and then I'll open up the phone lines, is about if if administrators can see the data as it's coming in, so if they can track if they're hitting 50% of their students or whatever that goal was that they set.
So the way we do that is that you have the opportunity through, let me back up for a moment. I was jumping ahead a little bit, Amber. What we recommend is that if you are going to participate in Speak Up, that you designate someone within your school or district who is our primary contact. That person is called our Speak Up administrative contact. That might be someone at the district, it might be at the school, it could be a technology leader, it could be a principal, it could be a district administrator. In some schools, it's the librarian or the media specialist. That person then has access to the administrative set of tools within Speak Up. And within those tools is an opportunity for you on an instantaneous basis to see what your participation numbers are across all the different surveys. So let's say, for example, you have decided that you are going to do the teacher professional development survey at your school or in your district. Maybe in your district you have 200 teachers and you want to make sure that you get as close to that 200. You've set a goal of 100%, for example. On that administrative part of the Speak Up website, you can go in there anytime you want and you can see what your participation numbers are. Many districts use that so that they are making sure that they're hitting those participation numbers, but it also gives them an opportunity maybe to do another little blast out to their teachers or encourage their librarians to get the teachers to take it or talk to their principals about their teachers taking it. So it's a way for you to manage the process. But yes, absolutely. We will provide you with instantaneous access to what your participation numbers are.
Okay, those are all the questions that have been submitted via chat. So I am going to open the phone lines. If anybody has any questions, you can just go ahead and speak up.
I'm going to say collaborative learning, and that's something you can do, but you know, the 33rd time a kid in the classroom.
All right, I'm not hearing anything question related.
But
I think we're good to.
You need to come up with some more
wrap up.
background too. I like the idea of the model lesson.
Well, thanks so much, folks.
Yeah,
it was great having you all here with us. I hope that we answered your questions today. If you have additional questions, of course, absolutely. Maybe you think of something later on, please contact us. Now, Amber, why don't you go ahead and put your contact information as well into the, I know that people heard through you, so they probably heard from you originally. But if you have any sort of questions or would like to participate, but would like to spend a little bit more time understanding how you do that, we're happy to set that up. The other key member of our team who we would introduce you to is Jenny Hossert, who is our Speak Up Operations Manager. She works directly with many schools and districts all the time about their participation in Speak Up, and she is just a wealth of knowledge, and you will love working with her to get set up for participating in Speak Up. So I hope.
And Julie, one more question just came in that's always good to reinforce. Just a question about, is there any cost associated with using the Snapshot surveys?
That's right. There are no costs associated with anything having to do with Speak Up, folks. So whether it is the Snapshot surveys, the mobile learning one, both the fall and the spring, or the professional learning one, or the access to the toolkits we're putting together, that is all 100% free. Again, I know that folks will look at me a little cross-eyed and say, could that really be true, Julie? It is absolutely true. This is our nonprofit mission to help you get the very best authentic feedback from your stakeholders that you can to inform your local decisions. So please, we hope that you'll participate with us. It'd be great to have you as part of our Speak Up family. Anything else, Amber? You think that's it? I guess so. All right, thanks. Thanks, folks. Thanks for joining us today. Bye-bye.